But I'll tell you what, if out of every conspiracy that's out there, if only 10% of it is true, that's enough to scare the shit out of you. So then what? Then you begin to have all of the people who have been nurtured in a culture, in a society that says, I need help from above, and the help from above is from the nebulous of the government. What is SHTF? What does it mean to you? You know, as we talk a lot in these videos about what it may or may not be, the overwhelming response in the comments, and I don't know if this is what everybody actually believes or not, but what I see in the comments is that it's some sort of post-apocalyptic event. And we go from now to then with the flip of a switch. There's nothing in between. Can we call anything else in between? SHTF, how do we get from here to there? We're going to talk about this, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments down below. You know, one of the things that you may need to plan, prepare, and execute a plan for SHTF is the SHTF Field Manual. Link down below. Shameless plug, whatever. So we have now, right? And so what are the types of things that can go from now to something worse than now? Like beyond a 24, 48 hour type event, right? We're looking beyond a natural disaster like a hurricane or a tornado. As horrible as those events can be and have been for many people, most of the time these events do not present a long-lasting change in how civilization happens and occurs, right? We saw some crazy stuff after Katrina. But aside from that, I think that's probably the worst one in recent history anyways. We're not talking about some civil unrest, right? Some violent protesting and things getting haywire. A couple cities bouldering in smoke. Again, those are, if you get caught in those moments, like yes, even in a natural event, like these can be a glimpse in time of an SHTF, right? It's taking it off the shelf, putting it in for a few days, maybe a month, and then putting SHTF back up on the shelf. So what needs to happen to get us from now to something that is truly long-term? If we've learned anything in our political process, it's more than just the wrong person getting elected, right? Things are much deeper than that as far as really putting in civil unrest. So let's say, probably one of the biggest ones that's on a lot of folks' mind is an economic collapse, because it's the then what, right? Begin with now, put in a triggering event that's plausible, and then work out a then what. Because it's not economic collapse and then SHTF, right? There's still stuff in between. So, I think the housing collapse is a good reminder to all of us of that it's not just a form of collapse and then it all goes to hell. So let's say the dollar just collapses. Maybe we have some hyperinflation, right? And money's not worth what it used to be. It already isn't worth what it used to be just a few years ago. But what if it got worse, right? What if oil prices spiked and stayed at over $10 a gallon, right? Could you imagine that? What that would do to the economy, to the trucking industry, to prices, to food prices, to everything that is dependent on oil and fuel. Transportation prices would absolutely skyrocket, and it would affect each and every single person across our nation. Stand by. You know what? You can have that. Then what? Then employers can no longer afford to pay all of their employees. So they start letting people go. Now you have an unemployment rise that is cataclysmic, right? The government can't support the vast majority of the unemployed. So then what? Then you begin to have all of the people who have been nurtured in a culture, in a society that says, I need help from above, and the help from above is from the nebulous of the government. And it's not even the local and state government, because all those two forms do, since we have eradicated a dual form of federalism, is spend the federal government's money. That's all that they do. So now you have a bunch of people with hands out for help and assistance, and they can't get it. So what's the then what? Well, then they start to get angry and mad, because all they want to do is feed themselves and their family. They just want to keep their grandma warm during the winter. They just want to not see their kids go hungry night after night and literally working off of the beans and rice that they probably didn't even store in the first place. So then what? Now we begin to have a more widespread violent uprising. Well, then what? Then the local, see, and this is where everybody, I think, gets crazy. Everybody says in SHTF there is no law enforcement. Well, okay, maybe in a post-apocalyptic type event, maybe that's true. But in every situation prior to, like I would call what we're talking about right now, something that is like on the roller coaster, it is heading down that way. But it because it's already heading down that way, you need to kind of already call it an SHTF, right? Things have already gone to hell in a handbasket in the scenario that we're talking about. And law enforcement is going to exist in the moment in time that we're talking about now. So you're going to have increased overreach and laws, people just trying to protect the citizen. Maybe it's widespread curfews. Maybe it's because of some increased looting or other types of raiding. Maybe there are checkpoints in your area, major intersections. People want to make sure that, hey, we can't have folks moving around the city or the county or the state with firearms, right? Because of all of the violence. We just want to keep people safe. You say, well, that's not reasonable. Well, have you been to an airport lately? And if you have you ever been to an airport in 2000 or before? Because there's not a chance in hell that any of us would have said in 2000, what are you doing? That I will never be able to walk to the gate, even though I'm not flying. There'll never be a chance where I have to go through and have all of this federal government overreach into my business. It's not going to happen. And then it happened. And America welcomed it in order to keep us safe. So what's going to happen if violence and a violent uprising is legitimately happening? The majority of citizens would tell the government, I welcome you to take more control over my life if you can keep me and my family safe. And say that they will absolutely restrict you from moving around with firearms. And the only way to do that is to enforce it, is to check it. And then what? You see where this is going, right? Like, everything has a second, third order of effect. And the government, like in this case, right, maybe it's just a city, maybe it's just a sheriff department in the county. Like, I don't think that they're probably acting out of ill will, like trying to do what is wrong, right? When I say wrong, I mean in violation of the actual freaking Constitution. I think they're just trying to do their best job that they can to protect their citizens. But they take an action and it forces a then what? Because a potential then what after that would be in localized areas, dudes coming together and saying, this is wrong. We can't do this. And if you think that something like that has never happened, again, go back and look at Athens, Tennessee after World War II. Because that's exactly what happened. You had a local government and law enforcement agencies overreaching, violating civil liberties, and it got to the boiling point where there was a violence of action against them, and the people won. It's a pretty interesting story. Check it out. Well, then what? Then the local or county calls for the state to help come in and suppress the violent uprising. And when that doesn't work, the governor calls in for the United States military to come and be a presence to help enforce martial law. Now, martial law can't be instituted throughout the United States. Like, there's just not enough bodies in order to make that happen, unless the people are submissive and they welcome it. If the people aren't welcoming it, there's too many people for the federal government to be able to do this. And that's just bare bones numbers. We've gone over this in the past. But in pockets or in neighborhoods or in cities, you can do it. And it can be enforced. So then what? Well, you start getting to that point, now you're well beyond a tipping point where there's not much turning back. And if you aren't thinking about things like that now, like where is this at in the realm of possibilities? Maybe it is in 10%. But I'll tell you what, if out of every conspiracy that's out there, if only 10% of it is true, that's enough to scare the shit out of you. It's enough to make you think, holy crap. So if this can only happen, if the possibility of the probability of this happening is only 10%, that's enough to make you say, I wonder, what should I do now? Maybe I should buy another month's worth of food. Maybe I should buy some more tools or equipment to maintain our house. Maybe I should buy that backup generator. So how do you, in turn, begin to have these conversations with your friends and your family? Because no man is an island. And I think if you start talking about the post-apocalyptic stuff, it may not always be well received. It's what I hear a lot. Like, how do I do this? And I think if you just talk about something that is much more probable, right? Back up the timeline. If you want to have some honest conversations about this with your friends and your family. Say, what would happen if, have you ever thought about, basic economy 101, right? Economics. What would happen if the price of oil shot up so much that it caused gas to be over $10 a gallon? How would we be able to get around, fill up our gas tanks? What would happen to employers and food prices and everything else? And let them answer, right? Ask some good, honest, open-ended questions that allows somebody else to work through things and get to that, oh shit, moment. What if? How much of a probability is it? We've seen gas prices soar in the past and what it's done. Imagine if it was double or triple that. Something to think about. Team, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments down below as we all continue to master our craft and develop our tactical virtue. As always, until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked. Team, if you want to master your craft and develop your tactical virtue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can stay up to date with future content. Consider becoming a channel member. It's going to give you exclusive access to content not available to anybody else. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay safe.
We know you're out there! Come to my voice!